Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Future of CRE Sustainability. I'm your host, Sean Swentek. Today, I'm joined by John Forrester, Vice President of Energy and Sustainability at the RMR Group. John, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Sean.
John, you've been a leading person in sustainability initiatives for over a decade at a company managing tens of billions in assets. What's the one myth about building sustainability that you just want to dispel right away?
That first myth would be once you have that successful project, your job is done. That's the first myth. Each project creates new challenges. While there are opportunities for templates and scale, I think there are new stakeholders at each step of the way that need to understand and learn and grow with those projects in order for the programs to be successful and continue to scale across portfolios.
Over the years, what's the biggest shift you've seen in how real estate investors and asset owners are viewing sustainability in their properties?
Well, there's one thing that's been pretty steady over the years, and that is the financial performance of these projects really rule the projects. However, there are more companies that are looking to the secondary benefits of projects, whether they be the societal benefits or the community benefits that are directly around their operations. But I'd say even stronger today is first and foremost, the performance of these projects and initiatives and the goals are largely delivered by delivering additional value to the organization.
John, for any listeners who might not be familiar with RMR Group, can you just quickly describe how you integrate in the CRE market and maybe a little bit about your role at the company?
Sure. The R Group is an alternative asset manager. We manage assets across all different verticals of real estate. We're vertically integrated. So we also are managing the properties as well as the business side of portfolios. We have both publicly traded clients and private capital clients, and we are interchanged across all aspects of real estate. My role specifically is tied to the energy and sustainability operational and strategies for the organization, largely where we are operating these properties. And that stretches from our office, medical office, life science properties, all the way into our industrial properties, and more recently, very large focus on residential properties where we are working to grow that portfolio.
And should I assume multifamily when you say residential?
Yes, absolutely.
I got a chance to look a little bit at your background preparing for this interview. I saw that you were at one time a mechanical engineer, and now here you are a sustainability executive. What engineering principles might serve you well in your time here in the sustainability sector?
Yes, University of Maine, go Black Bears. Um, the engineering side really allows me to dig in technically. And I think that's really an opportunity that is sometimes missing in the sustainability role. Sometimes sustainability roles are largely stakeholder based, or they are really working to bring people together. Technically, being able to drive performance, starting with the energy efficiency and the water efficiency, has allowed me to grow into a role that is much bigger than just energy and water.
You've managed sustainability across many sectors: office, industrial, retail, multifamily, like you mentioned. What is your outlook for sustainability growth going forward across those asset classes? Where do you see the biggest upside?
The upside for sustainability is continuing to deliver the message of value and how that value is seen across the different stakeholder groups. Not everybody, the message doesn't always work for this reduces our emissions, or this saves energy, or this reduces our water consumption. The message can be different. And even though the end result is going to be an improvement, a reduction of impact on the environment, it's also got to be good for the business. So as sustainable projects get done, as sustainability initiatives are established and defined, really tying them to the business operations is something that can't be forgotten. It sounds like it's fundamental, and it really is fundamental, but that message is also changing as commercial real estate is changing, particularly in a high cost environment. We really got to drive home why this is valuable. I'll add to that the longer term view is really an opportunity in this high cost of capital environment, where it's not necessarily a 3 to 5 year lookout. It's got to be a 5 to 7 to 10, maybe even a 15 or 20 year lookout, depending on what type of initiatives your organization is looking at. It's important to recognize that different types of projects have different life cycles. And the more stakeholders that can understand that, whether it's asset management, whether it's operations, whether it's acquisitions, whether it's even on the disposition side, being able to promote any of those projects that were done, even if they were done 5, 7, 10 years ago, if they're still delivering value to that asset, it's really important to get that message out there.
When evaluating a building's sustainability potential, what are some of those fastest paths to value? What are some of the low hanging fruit for sustainability in a building?
Well, that's going to depend on the building type.
Yep.
I will say, with a focus on residential right now, on multifamily, really understanding how the common area is used by the residents, understanding how they're using the fitness, how they're using co-working space, how they're using the club room, how the pool is being used. Some of those data points aren't always available in multifamily residential. We're working to gain access to those data points and use those data points to inform us on how we can create a better environment, a better community for the residents in those spaces. I'd say that's something that is overlooked quite a bit today. There's a template that says we need to have a movie room, or we need to have a pool table or a clubhouse. Even the fitness centers, are they being utilized as based on the capacity that they have, or can that space be better used for the residents of that community?
Speaking of tenant amenities in multifamily, what are you seeing trends right now for EV charging in that space?
It's definitely location dependent, but as we tour the properties, as we look at the vehicles that are in the parking lots, we're seeing more and more electric plug-in hybrid vehicles.
Yep.
The other trend there is, as we tour existing properties that are in the portfolios, it's one of the first things that a property manager will ask me: can we get EV charging stations? They see it coming in through the applicants. They see it being asked by the residents. And it's something that's very positive in a way that allows us to deliver amenities that high quality clientele want.
How do you convince a cost conscious property owner? And as I'm reading this, I'm laughing at how I worded this, because if you show me a property owner who's not cost conscious, I'll be surprised. How do you convince them that sustainability investments can be cash flow positive in the long run?
You got to show them the numbers. I think that's the easiest way to do it. There are other ways of doing it. There are proof of concepts, dare I say it, or pilots, dare I say it. Those are not always the most efficient way. One of the things that I've noticed about the real estate industry is a lot of people are looking for that differentiating component. Yet once you identify something that could be differentiating, the next question often is, okay, who else is doing it? Meaning, all right, has this been tried? Has this been proven to be reliable as a cost-effective approach to delivering higher revenue or lower operating expenses? Sometimes you have to stick your neck out there and really try these different projects, try different initiatives. You still have to do your research and try to cover all of your bases, look at all the variables, do some sensitivity analysis that says, we believe this is good. Now let's figure out this. And that's one way that I believe we can get through some of these barriers.
Property technology, especially AI related, is having a moment right now. Is there a prop tech solution that you've actually seen deliver real results that maybe isn't getting enough attention in the CRE space?
There are, for me, the background on the property technology and the machine learning is really tied to HVAC performance and remote building operations.
Yeah.
I think there are companies that are doing this. I don't necessarily know if they're doing it in a way that speaks to building owners. I think there's some of the approaches with AI and building automation is not being heard, particularly around optimization around your sequences for your pieces of equipment. I think that what you see is a very established and safe, mature industry not take advantage of the machine learning and the AI and the technologies that are out there. And that's particularly in the building automation industry. They're really relying on what worked 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, when there's a lot more power behind data analysis that could be used to make buildings perform better.
John, as you know, there's myriad frameworks out there for ESG metrics, building performance reporting, GRESB, et cetera. What do you think are the most critical ones for owner operators to be paying attention to?
Oh, I think that's geographic location dependence right now, particularly here in the United States.
Mhm.
Um, TCFD, or Task Force on Climate Related Financial Disclosures, is very front and center right now.
Yep.
That's for a couple reasons. That really allows us to take a look at what the exposure is today as well as in the future and how to mitigate some of that. I think that's also a way to establish to future buyers that you're aware that you're trying to protect this asset for them as well as the current owner, as ourselves or our clients. So that's one framework that I think is very universal. There's a couple different forms of it as things are still migrating around in the framework category, but that's very big. I think if you're trying to stay away from voluntary disclosures, but you're also are looking internally to see how to track some of these items, you're going to want to look at the greenhouse gas protocol and really get a grasp on your emissions. With building performance standards, trying to become active across the country and different cities or counties or states really starting to enact these reporting frameworks and getting a good grasp on what your scopes 1, 2, and 3 emissions are pretty important to focus on.
Yeah, it's not just national reporting that you have to be concerned with now. There's so many county, state level initiatives now that, boy, if you've got a nationwide portfolio, you better read up on all of these.
That's right. From a risk perspective, building performance standards is one of those exposures that if you miss can be very costly. So being in front of those policy decisions at the state or city or county level is something that we're very aware of.
Excellent. When you look at RMR's nationwide portfolio, what are the sustainability metrics that correlate most strongly with financial performance?
But energy per square foot and water consumption per square foot are those two items that correlate very strongly. I would say our Energy Star score correlates very strongly with financial performance.
Oh,
Not always is the ownership responsible for energy, but those high performing buildings also tend to be higher occupied buildings, and that does correlate to financial performance.
yeah, makes sense.
I would add that upon a disposition, those higher performing buildings also deliver higher financial value.
What is certainly a lot going on in the market, a lot going on at the government level. Are there any regulatory changes potentially coming down the pipe that commercial real estate leaders need to start preparing for now?
It is building performance standards, in my view. It is the regulatory disclosures on emissions is one thing, but really looking at meeting performance milestones or performance thresholds is something that is a real exposure. I feel like for a handful of the policies that were looking at their performance periods in 2025 or 2026, some of those have pushed back their first reporting milestone years, 3 years or 5 years. And we know that there are some others that are proposing to do the same. But that life cycle of how that can be improved really happens only 15 or 20 years as you're replacing your major HVAC equipment, as you're doing potentially any facade improvements or replacing windows or doing your lighting projects. Those projects only come around every decade or 2 decades. So if you're in the middle and you're considering your capital planning and you know that you have these policies that are at least in bill form or have been delayed, now's the time to make those decisions. That's something that we try to stress, and it's getting harder as these policies get delayed, but it's really keeping the focus on that mid cycle where if we're not in the position of replacing all this equipment yet, we have this performance standard to it. Maybe we do this now and consider what that is today versus in 5 years when that's due.
John, when you're working with those folks who might be sort of just starting out in their sustainability journey for their properties, what are the common mistakes that you try to help them avoid?
I'd say the first one is make sure there's a business case for your recommendation. If you're asking for money, you're asking for resources for projects or initiatives, and there's not a business case for it, think twice about asking for those resources. There's often times where And people have looked at me as out to save the world. And sometimes I say, I'm not here to save the world. I'm here to make the company more sustainable. And that just happens to include reducing our impact on the environment. But first and foremost, think about the business case and make sure that business case is sound before moving forward.
So, Don, the show is called The Future of CRE Sustainability. So, if you look into, say, 10 years down the line, what's the one thing you hope when we get to that point, the commercial real estate industry is sort of figured out about sustainability?
Hope's a tough word in commercial real estate. It's I would say my goal and one of the things I work on and my team works on is to have a common language and for the common language around sustainability to be more integrated into the language of real estate. I think there's still a gap there. And thinking about this is something that I believe I said in 2014 or 2015 at a conference. And it really is speaking that common language. If we're not speaking the same language or we don't understand what the other party is saying, then it's really hard to make progress. There's still a big gap. And the gap is there, I believe, because the components of sustainability have not yet fully integrated into the other business divisions of an organization, a commercial real estate organization. And that takes continual effort. That takes time and it takes commitment and it takes a willingness on both sides of that aisle to get that done.
All right, continue with hypotheticals. You're an owner of, let's say, a multifamily property, and you have unlimited capital. Imagine that. What is the first sustainability upgrade you would make?
It's a small one, but so I don't think we need unlimited capital for, but this is the first one that I recommend as we are looking at improvements for properties. And it is how the pools are being operated. The pools get used 5-6 months out of the year. If you're lucky in most areas, if you happen to be in the southern environments where they can use them more, you'll get a couple more months out of them, maybe.
Yeah.
But those pumps run 24/7, 365. They don't shut off. If you have fountains, you don't shut off fountain pumps. It's really taking a little bit more of a broader view on what it means to consume energy in the common areas. So that's the first thing that I see. I see club room doors wide open in the middle of the summer and the air conditioning running because the place is crowded and it's lovely. You see everybody having fun and jumping in the pool and splashing and using the clubhouse, which you want them to use that amenity. But maybe if there's a sensor that you could put on the door, if the doors are open, let's shut off the air conditioner. Like that. So going back to my mechanical engineering days and my energy audit days, it's those are the things that are just like, why aren't we doing this? Like, why isn't this getting done yet? So that like those are the things. With the unlimited funds, I really think delivering performance at the unit level is the next step, and that is high efficiency heat pumps. Let's get off electric resistance heat. There's much more efficient technologies available to heat many of these units across the country without electric resistance heat. So make sure you get high efficiency heat pumps, minimize electric resistance heat, and take care of some of that common area energy that just gets wasted all year long.
Well done, well done. John, if people want to hear any more of your insights, pick your brain a little bit, learn more about RMR Group, where's the best place for them to go?
Our sustainability report is the first place. We are pretty comprehensive with our sustainability report. It's several reports. Just this year, we started publishing separate smaller reports for each of our public portfolios and our private capital portfolio. The RMR main report talks about our initiatives, the way that we operate, the way that we see our people, and the way that we govern. But when you really want to look at the data, it's looking at these individual reports and our performance. I think one thing to really highlight in our sustainability report is we show our managed energy and water data versus our reported energy and water data. And what I mean by that is we're out collecting data from tenants that manage their own spaces, largely in our industrial portfolio, or those office tenants that might manage their own spaces as a corporate headquarters and things like that. And look at the stark difference between the change over time with what RMR manages from our asset services perspective versus what we collect from others that manage data. It's really night and day to see that over a decade of initiatives, can really drive sustainable performance.
Any top level metrics with a bunch of commas that you want to brag about from your last sustainability report?
Um, no, I don't think I need to brag about any commas. If you go back a few years on a sustainability report, you'll see all those numbers. I think that as we mature, we really try to let the data speak for itself on our energy reduction, on our emissions reductions, and our water reductions, our waste. We hit our waste target this year, which was awesome. So we hit the 50% reduction target. And a lot of that has to do with engaging with our tenants and engaging with our people. Like, hey, this is how we do this. And we got that this year. So that was exciting. But really what we try to do is we understand that some of those numbers are shared. Some of the value is shared with our tenants as oftentimes in commercial buildings, energy costs can be a pass through. So we try to normalize our data per square foot and we show that performance year over year.
That's awesome, John. All right, listeners. So rmrgroup.com if you want to find that sustainability report, learn more about all the great work they're doing. John, it was such a pleasure having you on the show today. I really appreciate you joining me. To all my listeners, thank you for tuning in to the future of CRE sustainability. I'll see you next time.
Thanks, Sean.